Welcome back to the Cooner Report. We are now joined by former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino. He is running for Congress in Maryland, and he has been doing the rounds lately, talking about his experience as a Secret Service agent, what he's seen guarding the president. And I want to welcome him, give him a warm welcome to the Cooner Report. Mr. Bongino, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, you're very welcome. Happy to be here.
Dan, for our audience out there, very quickly, what's your resume? You've been a Secret Service agent. How long were you a Secret Service agent? How many presidents did you guard and protect?
Well, I was there 12 years, started at the last year of the Clinton administration, worked for President Bush, and then finished with President Obama. So I was sandwiched by Democrats, with the meat being the Republican.
Now, Dan, you've been saying to many people that there's something very different about what you saw protecting this president, Obama, compared to other presidents. What did you see that was so different? What shocked you? What disturbed you?
I think the government to them, I use the term, it's like a shiny new toy to the Obama administration. They had no experience with governing. And shockingly, that's not necessarily a problem that's dispositive in any way if you bring in people and surround yourself with people who do have experience with governing. But that's not what happened. They brought in people who treated the president like a cult-type figure. And the White House became this place for patronage and then punishment. And when you're using it for patronage, that's certainly nothing new. I'm not condoning it, but that's certainly nothing new with the Democratic or Republican administration. But when you're using it as a weapon for punishment, like we've seen lately, that was what tipped the scale for me, and I felt like I had to really speak out. I mean, I've been out of the Secret Service for a while now. It's been about 2 years. I'd run before, and I've never felt the need to really speak out. But given this fog of scandals, the HHS, EPA, IRS, GSA, Benghazi, I really feel like we're in a really uncharted territory right now, and somebody had to say something.
Now, Dan, in terms of when you say they treated the president almost like he was a cult figure, a cult personality, can you give us an example? Is it that nobody contradicts him? Is it that he walks on water, everything he says is gospel? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, even stuff that seems utterly absurd. I'll give you an example, like the Obamacare negotiations. We're listening to the staff talk on the road, and even in these, I'm not talking about. I don't give up any kind of Oval Office type conversations. That would be inappropriate. But even listening to the staff, you're embedded in this, so your entire working day. It seems as if he says it has to be true, and it would be like me telling you, 2 + 2 = 6, correct? And you'd look at me and go, oh yeah, okay. Well, Dan said it. It's got to be true. It's almost like a Boss Tweed, Tammany Hall type of atmosphere where, of course, if he said it, it's got to be true. And then, if you're playing a patronage punishment game and, your hand in the cookie jar matters that, he controls you opening the cookie jar and you want your cookie and he says, hey, what does 2 + 2 =? Of course, you're going to say, oh, 6, of course. And there you go, you get your cookie. And then what's even worse is if you don't, say, hey, 2 + 2 = 6. It's not just that you don't get your cookie, it's that he takes the cookie and slams it in your face. And this is very dangerous. I mean, folks, I don't know if you understand, not you specifically, but your listening audience, the dangerous point we're in. And I know it's going to be very convenient for some to dismiss this and say, oh, he's just a guy, he left, he's running for office as a Republican, he's just angry. Folks, if you listen to any recorded speech I've given over the last 2 years, I am a bipartisan criticizer of the highest order. I am no fan of the establishment Republican Party, and they are no fan of me. But I can tell you right now, we are in a very different place with your government right now. And don't be surprised, whatever political label you have, if this continues, if you or your organization is next.
We are talking with Dan Bongino. He is running for Congress in Maryland. He's a former Secret Service agent. Dan, let me ask you this before I get into some other issues with you. How does Obama treat the Secret Service? How is he when you protected him? Give us a sense of his personality. How does he treat people? Is he respectful? Is he kind? Or is he what's being portrayed by many accounts, a very self-absorbed, narcissistic man?
Yeah, and this is what always throws people. He is actually a very nice guy to the Secret Service. He was always very kind to me, and there's no personal animus at all. Matter of fact, I argued with a guy the other day. He was begging me to stop saying that, but I said, listen, you want a credible witness to what's going on, or do you want someone who's just a hack? I mean, if you want hackery, I'll tell you, he's terrible. He wasn't. The Secret Service guys that I know, and I still talk to, they like him. His wife and family have been very pleasant and kind. But that doesn't matter. I'm a nice guy too. I didn't get to play shortstop for the Orioles down here for your Sox up there. It doesn't matter. The point is, Bill Clinton was a nice guy too. So was George Bush. I never had a negative experience with any protectee. I mean, I was with Michael Chertoff when he was DHS secretary. They were all really, really wonderful people. But it doesn't really matter, I guess, is the whole point here. I do believe he is a bit self-absorbed in the personal front, but I think it's the political narcissism that really matters, not the person. I don't think he looks at himself and says, wow, I look good when he wakes up in the morning. But I do believe that he believes he's some kind of historical change agent. I mean, take the man at his word, fundamental transformation of America. His words, not mine. Folks, what really fundamentally, when you say you fundamentally want to change America, think about that. He's not talking about want to fix the economy. Fundamental change, that's a bold term. What about our country needs to be fundamentally changed? That doesn't scare you? So, yeah, I think it's the political narcissism worst of all.
What was the most shocking thing that you saw when you were there in the Secret Service?
Well, I mean, there's a lot that you see, and some of it you can disclose and some of it you can't. But what bothered me the most was after the inauguration, there was this general theme by the media of this incredibly high threat level to President Obama because he was black. I mean, it was repeated so often, it was almost repeated as fact. And when you're behind the scenes and you see, and I don't want to get into a whole thing on media bias or anything, but I can tell you for an absolute fact, if you don't believe it exists, you're loony. I mean, it was repeated as fact over and over and over again. And you're watching behind the scenes, and there's no bump or spike or anything that's not normal for any new president. And you're thinking, why are they doing this? No one's calling them out. No one, and it's just, it almost indicted the whole country. Think about what you're saying there. They're not saying, there are racists in America. Of course there are. Always going to be people who hate people for any reason, misogynists, xenophobes, everything. But they were indicting the entire country, and that whole idea that he was going to be this great uniter, I could tell from day one, from a behind-the-scenes perspective, that was never going to happen, that with this administration, that anything they could use to divide us was going to be just expounded upon and used as a political weapon. I call it division capital. They knew from day one they were going to have no political capital. They knew it after a while, so they just used division. In other words, don't vote for me, vote against the other guy, and here's why. And that's a shame.
We're talking with Dan Bongino. He is running for Congress in Maryland, former Secret Service agent. When you look at some of the cast of characters around Obama, can we trust them with our civil liberties? Do you think they're abusing power? And do you think, in the end, they have America's best interests at heart?
Well, to answer them one by one, can you trust them with your civil liberties? Let me say, you can't, bold, capitalize, and italicize, and make, font 22 a big no. But if you could on radio, I would do that. No, do not trust them with anything. That was the whole point of Article 1, Section 8, the Constitution. There are very limited things you have to trust the government with, a court system or military, post roads. Trusting them with your emails, forget it. You'd have to be insane. Of all of them, who worried me the most was Axelrod. These guys are political animals. They're not governing animals. And everything to them, people say all the time the president's on a permanent campaign. Well, of course he is. He surrounds himself with permanent campaigners. These aren't, remember, everybody complains in the mainstream media that this meme's been out there that, that Republicans won't work with President Obama. Well, nonsense. He's got the biggest pieces of liberal legislation rammed through with no Republican support at all. Dodd-Frank, the stimulus, Obamacare. I mean, these are groundbreaking pieces of legislation hammered over the Republican Party's head because he surrounded himself with political types. And don't trust them with your civil liberties. They don't govern. All they do is campaign, and everything to them is division capital. How do we divide people and not get them to vote for us, but to vote against the other guy? They're doing it now with Obamacare. The website broke. Oh, it's the website designer. It's not the fact that the whole system was designed poorly, Obamacare. And, now it's the Republicans are doing it. They're holding it up. And it's all nonsense. They don't get you to vote for them. They get you to vote against the other guy.
Dan, you said of all of them, David Axelrod worried you the most or troubled you the most. Why?
Yeah, I mean, look at his record here with the president. The president has only gotten ahead because they've managed to destroy the other guy's reputation. Remember, Barack Obama ran for Congress in Illinois against Bobby Rush and got crushed. I think Bobby Rush is still in, as a matter of fact. Then he ran for state senate, and mysteriously, and I use that term loosely, the guy he's running against, his sealed, by the way, divorce records magically appear in public. Well, Axelrod had the connections to do that. And then you have the situation for the U.S. Senate where he's running against Jack Ryan. Well, Jack Ryan, I believe, was ahead. All of a sudden, what appears? Jack Ryan's divorce records. Amazing. Folks, this is the President of the United States and his people. I get it that you're loyal to him. I get it. I understand. But how does that not bother you? Sealed divorce records magically appeared, destroying 2 lives so Barack Obama could get ahead? And who is the godfather of this? You have Axelrod out there all the time with his fingers touching everything. I mean, this is really scary stuff. I'm not telling you that every single Democrat's a bad guy. I mean, my parents or my mother was a JFK Democrat. Well, there are no more of those. They're now called the Republicans. But you vote who you want for and who you want to vote for in the next election. I'm not trying to dissuade you there. But I'm telling you, the administration we have now, we're in very dangerous turf. Everything to them is using politics and the tools of government as a weapon to get ahead.
Wow. We have been talking with Dan Bongino, former Secret Service agent. He actually protected President Obama, the dear leader. He's running for Congress in Maryland. He's got a book coming out. Dan, we're going to have you back on in a couple of weeks to talk about your book, your bombshell book. Thank you so much for coming on the Cooner.